Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We are really excited to bring you another awesome Geekdom virtual workshop, this time with a group called 88pixels. They recently joined our ecosystem and they're already doing some amazing things to help out with the community. And they bring over some really interesting expertise in how to do agile pivoting during times of crisis such as COVID-19 and how to pursue some really interesting projects, particularly doing contracting and subcontracting for government contracts as well as others. It's my pleasure to introduce Jason and Sergio with 88pixels. And with that, I will let them take over and lead the way. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. So I'll go ahead and start off by sharing my screen and the presentation. All right, are you guys able to see on my screen? Okay, cool. All right, it now says I am screen sharing. So, all right, cool. So let me go ahead and talk to you guys a little bit about, I'm going to talk to you guys about pivoting. And so I'm going to just go ahead and jump into it right now. So first, let me tell you guys a little bit about our story before COVID. So our company was me and Jason. We were actually originally based in China. We've been based there for several years, and our particular situation was especially affected by COVID. Our main client base was from France, and also the main industries that we were actually building technology for was airline industry, and basically things like flight reimbursements and stuff like that. Quality control for retail clothing brands, and basically for managing their supply chain networks and in things like that. And then also O2O events, like online to offline, offline to online events. And that was pretty much like the main area that our company was focused in, like pre-COVID. But as I said, COVID hit us pretty hard. Airline travel industry, as you guys know, just gone. So our main some of our main clientele was basically companies that handle like flight reimbursements for whenever there's flights being delayed. So no flights basically means that they have no customers. And then also the retail industry was also hit because stores were pretty much just all like closing down in China, especially they were the first ones to react. So like all the stores at retail industry was essentially just all like closing down during that time. And especially to note was France in particular, which was our biggest, most of our customers were actually companies from France. Now, in France, the government actually made it a finable penalty if a company requires their employees to work remotely. So basically, it was just the entire workforce in France was essentially on pause. So all of these things basically hit us extremely hard. So then we decided to relocate. We decided to move back to the States, and we chose San Antonio to be our destination. And we chose San Antonio to be our new headquarters, the place where we were going to be, where we're relaunching. Our story after COVID. So we started to analyze our core technologies. What are some of the products that we've been managing and building before? And what are some opportunities that we can grow towards? And we ended up finding a really surprising niche. So one of the things is that our quality control software that we had built for clothing retail stores is extremely similar to the processes required by the government for FSMA compliance. For those who aren't familiar with FSMA, it's basically the Food Safety Modernization Act. And so they require food processing plants to follow these like really strict guidelines that all have like this sort of like pass, no pass, when's the last time you audited, all of this kind of thing. The process is extremely similar to clothing retail quality control inspections. And what's more is that because of COVID, actually processed food is booming right now in the US. These manufacturers are actually benefiting a lot from this. So that brings us to the first topic that I want to talk to you guys about, which is pivoting your target industry. Now, for those of you who are well-read and have seen newspapers and magazine articles, you'll probably all be aware that there's three main industries that are thriving because of COVID. So first one you have is one is food, and third one is medicine. But then you might be thinking, if you're a startup or a new company, like, these are all really, really mature industries. So how do I actually like break in and pivot towards these industries? So I think the easiest plan of action, and also the areas that have the least amount of attention and least amount of competition, are not necessarily the direct vendors of these items, or like the direct 2C platforms for this. But one way that you might be able to start looking into things is who is supporting all of these industries? Who are the supporters? Because the supporters also are getting an increase of demand. So the first thing you want to do, choose an industry, and let's look into these supporters. So every industry full of supporter roles. Here's a few for e-commerce. I'm not going to go ahead and read out everything, but I will give you guys links to the slides later, so you can always go back and take a look. But a couple of the notable ones you have is like warehouses, and also paper manufacturing is huge, because it's not just toilet paper that's in demand, but actually cardboard boxes are massively being increased on their demand. So all of these things are things that are areas that you could be able to provide a supportive role in. Food, so you have things like frozen food processing, distribution, FSMA compliance, which I mentioned before. Like these are all areas that are places there where you could probably be able to fill some sort of niche. Farming and agriculture as well. There's a lot of local farms that are in need of like organization systems to be able to help them manage their flow, their outflow, especially towards different suppliers. Now I'm going to talk about medicine for a little bit. So some of the big areas that are especially interesting in medicine is so the delivery and distribution of supplies. So like, for example, if you were a events company that had a platform focused on organizing parties, nobody's having parties right now because of COVID, right? But however, the core technologies behind it, right, is essentially having a logistics organization, being able to manage your supplies that you might need for a party, being able to manage the third-party vendors who are going to be bringing different things to the party, the DJ, the decorator, the florist, all these kinds of things. And actually, like, the ability to the technology required to manage these things, as well as the workforce, the level of attention to detail required to be able to make a successful party, is also overlapping with the things that are needed for being able to do to manage the delivery and distribution of supplies. So thinking about things like face masks and cotton swabs, like how are these being distributed? Like, these technologies are actually overlapping significantly. So there's other things here as well, stuff like telemedicine, like video conferencing, as well as things like if you are doing something related to like image recognition stuff, how can you use that for remote diagnostics? So all these are areas that are in need, and especially more so in need because of the COVID situation. So I would say, like, the first thing you want to do is pick one of these industries, right? So pick an industry and try to focus on a sub niche. Like, what are one of the areas of need in that industry? If you're not really sure where to begin, which I would say usually a good 70% of people who are listening to me talk are probably not sure where they want to begin, then I think the most useful place to start is to start connecting with communities and associations. So now the first thing that you can do, which would probably be the easiest way for you to pivot, would be if you're already providing a service that has customer base, reach out to your existing customers and maybe start to ask them about what are some things that you can also be able to fulfill. What are some areas that they're looking for? This could give you a hint as to maybe what are some new features you could just sort of expand on, maybe some sort of byproduct you can build really quickly, but something that can fulfill their current needs, especially their needs in COVID. Now, if you're an early stage startup and you don't have existing customers, then reaching out to communities and associations might be something that would be more fit. So when it comes down to this, every industry has their associations. Texas itself has 5,300 plus local and regional associations. So you can find these associations, proactively connect with them, ask them questions. So some areas that you can think about when it comes to connecting with associations. First thing is impact organizations. So impact organizations are your nonprofits and your impact focused places. So things like San Antonio Food Bank, things like the South Texas Blood and Tissue Center, also like OATS, Older Adults Technology Services, Meals on Wheels, Family Violence Prevention Services. So like all of these organizations have their veins like closely in touch with the community. So when you're meeting with any of these, with representatives from these organizations, you can get some really useful insight as to what are some things that the community is struggling with. What are some areas that need help that isn't getting attention. A lot of times you can get some really surprising results from this. So for example, you might end up finding out that you might find out that senior citizens are having a lot of trouble with isolation because there's nobody visiting them anymore. And so they're finding it really lonely. So like these are the things that you only find out really when talking to these organizations. Also, you can always talk with startup communities. Two ones that I would especially recommend is Geekdom and also Startup San Antonio. They also have like not just their feeling and the pulse of the community, but also they can be really great sources of connection to other players in the technology landscape in San Antonio, and also the general entrepreneurial landscape in San Antonio. So maybe perhaps an idea that you have could be something that you could join forces with another company and have like a product that you guys are jumping into together. For people that are focusing in the medicine direction, definitely reach out to your medical associations. So these ones are probably the easiest way to get a direct connection to the doctors, the nurses, the epidemiologists, the people that are getting their hands dirty with COVID. And you can really be able to find out, okay, what are some things that are right now a huge pain to handle? These are the associations that can help you connect with them. Food associations, there's tons of these. Also similar concept, reaching out to them. As I was speaking about our idea about how we're going to be pivoting towards food and safety, one of the biggest reasons that we ended up finding out that food safety, that FSMA doesn't really have any big players right now, and it's actually a huge in-demand need right now, is because we were talking with the Texas Association for Food Protection, and they were telling us like, yeah, actually one of the biggest concerns for our customers or for our members is that it's really difficult for them to do all of the tracking of their audits and all of the tracking of all of their food safety regulation compliance, because they have this huge influx of orders. So they're really short-staffed and they're having trouble being able to make sure that all the compliance is being met. So we only ended up having this kind of and this insight by talking to these organizations. For those of you interested in helping out in e-commerce or in any other field, logistics and warehousing, definitely some places that you could also start to focus your attention in. I'm going to send you guys the link at the end of the lecture, so you don't need to like screenshot or anything like that. You can be able to click into any of these links once you guys get the link. So now, when you find an organization that will agree to meet with you, and you're actually scheduling this meeting, the first thing you need to do is start to find out some things. So have the video call, brainstorm together. And most importantly, figure out what are the big problem areas that need attention. So So like some good questions that you can ask to get you there is is to focus on like more so like open-ended questions when you're asking them. So instead of you having an idea first and then being like, oh, does people have a need for this? Most likely they're going to say no. All right, but however, if you start to ask them open-ended questions, you can find out what their problems are, because there is all of these industries are having a huge influx of orders and of needs. So by having this communication with them, you might end up finding out that, let's say, for example, for paper manufacturing, it's really difficult to organize orders from, let's say, like multiple different manufacturers in the supply chain, or like one of the difficulties is that the suppliers that they're already working with are already at full capacity. So and they don't know how to find other suppliers that can be able to contribute smaller amounts or things like that. So these kinds of things you'll only really find out if you reach out to these associations. Then before you really decide on specifically what is the project you want to do, you should think about what's your current assets. So so the like assets I'm defining like in a very different way from the financial definition, you know, so not talking about things like, you know, what kind of equipment and stuff like that you have, but I'm thinking more so your technology. So like, if you're a tech company, right, what does your website already do? If, you know, think about how can you make a small modification on your database schema, for example, to be able to fit the needs of a different industry. A lot of times you'll find out that the way that you were approaching the previous industry you were working on, you can probably keep like a good 60 to 70% of all of the logic related to that. And then just make like a few small modifications in there to be able to like pivot it towards fitting another organization. So, and then at that point, it's just about making designs that are fit for the other organization. But like a lot of times when it comes to like the heavy engineering, the back end things, you can be able to pivot to a different industry and still be able to keep a good 60 to 70% of your code base. For also other things you might worry about is if you're not a tech company, okay, so other things you might be able to consider is your skills and your people. So let's go back to let's say the party, let's say like parties and events planning organization, right? How can you leverage your assets? So in that case, your greatest asset is probably your ability to manage and organize things in a really clean way. So your biggest asset is those talented organizers on your team. So if you can think about, okay, what are some other things that need high level of organization in order to execute? And then that could be a way that could be a place you can be able to plug yourself in. So you can figure anytime that while you're having these brainstorming sessions, keep in mind what are some strengths that your company has, right? So then when you're having these brainstorming situations, if you're a company that excels in a very organized workflow, think about, okay, how can I use similar workflows to what I'm doing now? And how can I use highly organized people that are on my team to be able to adapt to the needs of, let's say, these independent doctors, these private practices. And so, yeah, so these are all the big questions that you want to really think about when you're focusing on finding those needs. So then after that, then what you want to do is take immediate action. So by taking immediate action, basically what I mean is just like build something right away. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but build. So important things for quick pivoting is that needs are urgent. So you need to take action now. Make an MVP. Rough but stable is good enough. High emphasis on stable. You don't want to give a bad impression that you have a very like unstable software. You know, people can deal with something that's slightly ugly, but people cannot deal with something that's just like not functional. So you want something that's rough but stable for your MVP. Now, if a customer finds it useful when you give them something that's rough but stable, now you can actually take some time to refine it, iterate over it, prepare it for market, and then you can start actually going and approaching customers and selling it to them. Now, if the customer is just like, yeah, you know, it's useful, but at the same time, it's not really, you know, it doesn't really help me out that much, then just pick up the pieces. It's okay to abandon the idea, start looking for a new niche. maybe think about, okay, how can I probably pivot this idea a little bit more towards being able to fulfill something that they do need based on these questions that you're having with them. Now, some key notes that I want to have is that you don't want to spend more than like 2 weeks on exploring an idea. So by exploring, I mean having meetings and follow-up meetings and follow-up meetings. If it takes more than 3 follow-up meetings to get somebody excited about something, then it's probably just not a good idea to keep going. Because like if it's something that they need and it's something that's urgent, they'll be excited after 1 to 2 meetings. Like, so I would say don't spend more than 2 weeks on exploring a general idea. Instead, change the idea and then keep exploring other ways of connecting with these people. And then if you get an idea where the reception is warm, then you want to try building the prototype, which you should spend maybe 2 to 3 weeks just building something, again, MVP, rough but stable. And get that way you can actually get it in their hands and seeing how usable it is and how much it can alleviate the problems that they are focusing on. So then now if you keep that in mind, you don't want to put yourself, especially in COVID situation where everybody's kind of in need of cash, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're overcommitting on a really huge project that doesn't have a market need. So find the needs really early and figure out if it's worth your time. So now for those of you who feel like, let's say your situation is a little bit different because you're not necessarily a product focused company. If you're more so of a service focused company, then so I'm going to pass the microphone to Jason, who's going to talk about government contracting, which is a really good fit for people in service industry and people who are providing services of some sort. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pass it off to Jason. And then after Jason's done, we'll go ahead and start taking in some questions. So it's not sure. All right, Jason, you want to take it from here?
Cool. Am I sharing my screen? Sergio, can I get it okay? Anyone see it? It's okay? Cool. Awesome. So as Sergio was mentioning before, our business was in China. We had a rough time because of COVID, so we decided to move here, and now we're in this process of pivoting. And one of the things that we provide are technology solutions for businesses, organizations, agencies. We're doing that in China, so we're thinking, why not do that here in the US, and also try to focus on other different kinds of pivot channels that we can pursue. And we took a look at government contracting just because right now, the government, they're the ones with the most budget to like spend on new kind of innovations. And they're the ones that have the real, they know they have the problems in their hands, and they're trying to find quick solutions. So right now it's kind of like in emergency mode for new innovations and trying to find all these solutions. So yeah, let's just get right into it. I'm gonna teach you guys how you can get started in government contracting. So for the initial steps, if you're a freelancer, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is register yourself as a business entity. And some types of corporations are LLC, S Corp, and nonprofit organizations. And once you're a registered business, you should be very aggressive on getting certified. And what I mean by that is, as a business, if who's just getting started with government contracting, you might not have the track record to show that you are worthy of winning a bid or winning an RFP, which means request for proposal. So if you don't qualify, or if you if the RFP poster does not feel you're qualified, you need to show the poster, hey, I am a business to be taken seriously. And one of the ways you can do that is by getting certified, getting those certificates. And in Texas, there's a bunch of certificates, and there's also federal certificates and also service certificates. But for Texas, we have HUB, which stands for Historically Underutilized Business. And Sergio and I, we see this certificate all the time in the proposals. Basically, if you're HUB certified, it puts you in a specific category of businesses that qualify for qualify for contracts. So you definitely want to get hub certified. And there's also AABE, African American Business Entity, Asian American business entities. And then there's also if you're a woman-owned business. So if you feel you qualify for these kinds of certificates, you definitely should apply at SCTRCA. All the information is there, and they will also list out all these certificates for you. So you can just, apply in one shot. So if you want to apply, you can actually click a few options that you think you might apply for, you apply, and then the process for application is not that long and strenuous. The next one is federal certificates. These are certificates that are, in order to obtain them, you have to go on SBA.gov. The cream of the crop certificate definitely for small business definitely has to be the AA certified. And then there's also SBA Hub Zone. However, your business needs to be active for 2 years in order for you to qualify and register for these certificates. Then there are service certificates. For example, if you're like a landscaper and you have a certificate to fix John Deere equipment, or if you're an Amazon Web Services guru, and these are certificates that look great on the proposal. So do not be shy, and when it comes to writing a proposal, you should include these certificates, because more than likely these proposals are looking for individuals that hold these kinds of certificates. Then what you want to do after you have your business registered and you have your certificates, you want to register yourself in the state vendor database. And in Texas, it's called CMBL, Centralized Masters Bidder List. Immediately, you should create your profile immediately after you have your business registered and your certificates, because it's one of the ways for other businesses to find you. And also the RFP post, they do background checks, and if you're not on this list, you're more than likely not going to be qualified to even put a bid in for the proposal. So you want to find whether it's in Texas or in your state, find that state vendor database and apply and register yourself as a business. Then now I want to go into prime contracting versus subcontracting, because there are two different aspects of government contracting. So prime contracting is, if you're a registered business, you're certified, you're now registered, you're on CMBL, you're looking for proposals. Excuse me. One thing I want to talk about is not get right into the proposal. What kind of the sources and where you can find bidding opportunities. Excuse me. So bidding opportunities. Usually if you go to your local state, state website or web platform, they have this thing called purchasing. When you go to purchasing, there's usually this thing called bidding opportunities. That's where most of the state and city will post all the contracts that are available for public. For the city of San Antonio, they have the San Antonio bidding opportunities. This is updated pretty much every week. And we find, tech jobs on there, as well as, jobs for fixing the air conditioning in an office building, or, they need to find someone to help them purchase new property, or look at or act as a property agent. There's all these different kinds of contracts available for different types of industries. And the cream of the crop for Texas has to be the Texas Smart Buy. Texas Smart Buy is definitely the place where you want to find you can find a lot of bidding jobs and bidding opportunities in all different kinds of industries. And I'm not going to tell you how to navigate through that website, but what you want to do is you want to find out your class codes. Class codes are pretty much the services that you provide as a business. And then you want to, on the search form, you want to be able to just enter all these different class codes that you qualify, and you just get a list of all these jobs, and just go one by one through the RFP and see if you qualify. The next thing you do is you're going to have a lot of homework. You're going to be giving yourself a lot of homework, because now that you found a proposal, it's time to move forward. And the one thing that you're going to be doing is you're going to be going and reading through that RFP and looking at that scope of work. And one thing you're going to ask yourself is, what can I do? And what does that mean? So like, what would my responsibilities as a business be for this contract? And the second question you're going to ask yourself is, what do I need help with? Because most jobs in a contract, the scope of work usually is a long list of things that they want you to do. And you might feel like you don't qualify for this contract based on that long list of requirements. That it's totally normal to feel insecure about that, especially if you're a new business. But you also have to remember, these government contracts don't expect you to do everything. They don't expect you to take on the whole project. It's very rare for one business to take on a whole contract. So what you can do is you would subcontract. You would try to build a team, and some contracts even expect that. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to attend the Q&A meetup. I can't say what it's like in other states, but in Texas, most RFPs that are posted, they have a Q&A meetup. And this Q&A meetup gives the bidders the chance to ask questions about the contract, specific questions about the contract. So I strongly recommend you to attend those meetings. Now they're virtual. It's usually just a Zoom or WebEx meeting. And you get involved and ask those questions about, the contract, or even your idea to fulfill the requirements of the contract. When the answers become publicly available, they will be. So everyone has access to that. You're going to want to go through each question and take a look at those answers and understand what the responder. So it's usually going to be the RFP poster, what their responses are, and kind of like you can kind of gauge how the contract might go based on some of these answers. So obviously, if the answers are wordy, then you might have to, write a proposal that might be very detailed. Or if they're very short and concise, maybe your RFP proposal is going to be a short and concise one. So get involved in the Q&A. And when you're in the Q&A also, you want to do some research and find out who the other bidders are. Because usually in the Q&A response document, they're sometimes going to list out the businesses in this document, and you want to kind of like gauge and see where you fit in amongst the other competition. Sometimes you might actually contact them and end up working with them, or it'll at least let you know, okay, is this business that's also applying do they have a history of doing government contracts? Like where do you stack amongst the competition is something that you should kind of gauge. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start writing. And this is the most tedious task of it all, of the whole government contracting is writing. So if you don't like writing, well, you better start practicing, because RFP it's just like a thesis. So usually we spend like around a week on a proposal, and it really depends on the RFP and how much detail is in the RFP. So like our proposals can sometimes go from anywhere from 30 pages to 60 pages. And I just want to list out some things for you that for us, it takes time. So because when you're preparing a contract, a lot of it is just planning everything has to be in a timely, orderly manner, because you don't want to be committing to a proposal last second and then delivering last second. Because if that person who reads your RFP, they can tell this is like, it was kind of like half-assed or like last second, they're obviously they're not gonna consider you for the contract. So give yourself time, and also space out the whole thing. Like give yourself a lot of time to be able to focus on at least one proposal. So some subject matters that you need to consider that's going to take time is budgeting. Budgeting, for us, it's something that we like to spend and think a lot about, because you don't want to over budget and you don't want to under budget. You want to be fair, but you also want to be fair to the people that you hire, and you also want to be fair for the people that posted the job, because everyone at this point is trying to cut costs, but you want to be smart about budgeting and give yourself that time. The next one would be subcontracting. Like I said before, most contracts don't expect you to do everything. So subcontracting, you're gonna go through that CMBL. You're gonna go through each business. You're gonna type in these key codes, these class codes, and find out what services you need to fulfill the contract. And you're going to be active and proactive and reach out to those businesses, whether it's a Zoom call or a direct phone call. You're gonna kind of interview them, engage how they are as a business, and have they done government contracts before. And all of this takes time. We usually do a lot of research on subcontractors, and we'll use for one specific thing, for example, cybersecurity. Well, we've done like 4 or 5 interviews, and we actually spent time on deciding who our main subcontractor is going to be. So, and the next thing is going to be obviously writing your method of execution, how you're going to fulfill the scope of work for the RFP. That has to be really clear, and it has to be your selling point. So you're going to be spending a lot of time on these 3 things. For subcontracting, by the way, you should give yourself at least 2 weeks before the deadline, just because there's a lot of logistics and due diligence that you have to take on when you're finding these subcontractors. So give yourself at least 2 weeks, at least before the deadline. And then obviously the narrative approach of your proposal should match the organization agency. What I mean by that is like, okay, so if the RFP is for education, and it's like the Texas Education Agency, and they want to build something for high school students, well, you need to be able to kind of write a proposal that makes your method of execution more catered towards high school students, and also at the same time at the corporate level for Texas Education Agency. So you're gonna want to look at things like their budget and how much they spent on previous projects. And like I said before, if the RFP is wordy, expect to write a wordy and detailed 60-page proposal. The next thing I want to talk about is subcontracting. Fulfilling a contract as a prime contractor might not be suited for your business. If so, you should consider subcontracting. Just like prime contractors, you're gonna want to list your business as a state in the state vendor database, which is CMBL. So make sure your business is obviously certified as well, like prime contractors, and you want to get those certificates, because that's going to also be a selling point, and it's going to be easy way for prime contractors to decide whether you are qualified or not for the contract, because sometimes the proposal requires someone with a specific certificate. So make those certificates public on your LinkedIn profile or your company webpage, and tell people about your certificates as a business. And also let people know that you're open for subcontracted opportunities. A lot of people don't mention this. They want to try to be the prime contractor, but being a subcontractor, you're more likely to get a job as a subcontractor than actually a prime contractor, because people are looking for subcontractors. So it's as in your company profile on your website, it's okay to say we're a business that's open for subcontracting opportunities. And as Sergio mentioned before, the connecting with associations and organizations is really important. You want other businesses who are also in the same realm of you to know that you also do government contracting, because some of those people might be prime contractors and they need help. If you can fit the mold of providing a specific service like technology solution, or if it's repairing of an air conditioner unit or whatever, then people want to get in contact with those people with your business. So join the organizations and associations and be proactive and get involved in those communities. So like I said, once you're proactive and you find those RFPs, you're gonna want to do the same thing as prime contractors, which is attend the Q&A meeting. That Q&A meeting will give you the chance to ask specific questions, also connect with other bidders. And you definitely want to reach out to those bidders. And because some of those bidders, they're not too sure what they want to build too. Like the whole point of the Q&A is to figure out how can we find a solution for this scope of work. So sometimes they might not have the idea, but your business might have the idea. And the idea of teaming up actually sounds a whole lot better than just doing something on your own. So like go to those bidders, contact them, get their phone number, reach out to them, and just bring up the idea of teaming up. We've done it in the past, and like so far we've seen kind of like a lot of positive feedback from it. So teaming up is something that you should definitely consider as a subcontractor, because it's basically the way you're gonna conduct government contracts. And sometimes you'll also see an out-of-state bidder. An out-of-state bidder might find all these like agencies, there's like so many of these aggregators of government contracts, and there's so many different companies and businesses who are in government contracting, but there's so many contracts throughout the whole nationwide, and these aggregators just flood in all these jobs. So like you have businesses from New York City who really want to win this Texas contract, but however, they don't qualify because they are not a Texas business. So what we do is we find the list of businesses that apply for these RFPs, and we just like say, you know what, hey, like we see that you're out of state, but the contract set is looking for a hub certified business. So what about are you interested in teaming up? And for those kinds of businesses, the only way for them to win the contract is your business. So you may be their only ticket. So that's a great thing to do, is contact those out-of-state bidders. And like I said before, sometimes the contracts require vendors to subcontract 20 to 30. They require the prime contractors to subcontract at least 20 to 30% of the contract. So like the city of San Antonio does this. They want all these small businesses in the city of San Antonio involved, and they want to distribute the funds and the budget to all different spaces and all different kinds of businesses. So like if you can build it, so for some of these contracts, you have to build a team. It's the only way for you to win a contract. So if you see an RFP that requires like 20 to 30%, and you only want to do one part of that contract, because remember, as a subcontractor, you don't have to fulfill the ambitious goals of a prime contractor. You only have to do one part. So you just, nudge them and just contact them and just be like, hey, I see that the contract requires 20 to 30%. You also need someone who's an expertise in this. Are you interested in working together? Are you interested in the idea of teaming up? So these are just some resources. And like Sergio said, he's going to give you the link to the slides, and you can just click through them. But some things I just wanted to reiterate, some resources. The commodity class codes in the city of San Antonio, these are the codes that, they can pretty much represent the services your company provides. They come in handy when you look for RFPs. And the SCTRCA is where you can find information about certificates and apply there. And then there's also the Texas Comptroller, which it's the CMBL. It's that master's bidder list, which has all of the businesses, registered business in the state of Texas. Cool. And then on the federal level, there's SAM.gov. You can go on SAM.gov and find bidding opportunities. These are really big contracts. You definitely need to have a history track record before you start applying to these kinds of contracts, and you need to have 8A. For these federal contracts, they really like that 8A certificate for small businesses. And then you can go on usaspending.gov, which gives you a lot of insights on where the government they're spending their money and which industries and stuff like that. A local resource for the city in San Antonio, there's this guy called the Small Business Liaison. His name is Hugo, right? And when we just arrived in San Antonio, we didn't really know who to contact. So we just did some deep research on this website, on the city of San Antonio website, and we're just going through all these things. And I found this person whose sole job is to help small businesses like us and maybe like yours. So he doesn't only connect you with people and organizations and communities. He also gives you, the roadmap on how to register a business, how to get started. And there's a lot of great business consultation coming from his side. And he can also connect you with people. He actually recommended us to, reach out to the people of Geekdom. So a big shout out to Hugo. And if you need someone, if you're just getting started and you need someone to talk to and you're really not sure about this, his sole job is to help people out like us. So strongly recommend you to contact him. Really great guy. And And yeah, you should definitely do that. And that's pretty much it. We're 88 Pixels to Go. We provide tech solutions for entrepreneurs, small businesses, global enterprises, and this is a whole realm. And now government, we're getting into government contracting and doing all this stuff. But basically, if you need a tech solution and you want to talk more about what we do as a company, then yeah, you can definitely reach out to us. These are some of the companies we work with. We also do workshops like this, try to share our business knowledge and our experience. We're not experts, but we can share what we know. As we ran a business in China, and now we're trying to start a business here and get going. So yeah, there's Sergio, he's the president. I'm Jason, vice president. You can visit us and find out more information about us on 88pixels.com. And Sergio, do you have anything else that you want to add?
Yeah. Don't really have anything really to add. I think you killed it on the government contracting stuff. Very detailed.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I think this was an incredibly thorough presentation. So thank you again for putting this together. You brought up some really great tips and tricks. You also kind of showed people where to go and find those resources and walk them through that process, which is incredibly helpful. And I know that those that are going to tune into this are going to be able to take that back and be able to pursue these kinds of projects in the future. We love collaborating with you. So thank you again for joining us. For those of you who are interested in getting involved here at Geekdom, you can find us at geekdom.com. You can take a virtual tour. You can reach out to us at info@geekdom.com if you want to participate in our ecosystem. And if you have topics that you'd like to share with our community members, we'd love to hear from you. And don't hesitate to reach out to the 88 Pixels guys. In my experience, they're incredibly knowledgeable. They're incredibly helpful. They're willing to get involved, and they definitely care about giving back. So definitely take them up on that offer.
Yeah, actually, one thing I do want to mention to everybody watching this is that we do have an open offer to freely be able to help you out with like kind of coming up with some ideas. So I mean, if you guys are struggling even after looking at all those resource lists that we sent you, and you're not really sure what's your next steps, definitely feel free to send us a message. We would love to hop on a Zoom call and actually give you what's that first step you should take. Like. We're all in this together as a city, so I mean, we all need to be here to help each other out.
See, what did I tell you? These guys are pretty fantastic, and so we really look forward to having more workshops from them in the future. So stay tuned. There will probably be one coming up in July, and then also this week we've got a lunch and learn presentation with Sputnik. You can find that event on Eventbrite or check us out on our social media. We'd love to have you come to that as well. And with that, have a really fantastic Wednesday, everybody. Thank you so much.